Go.
Welcome to Tailgate Talk. I'm Grady Hill.
I'm Sam Wagner.
Sean Shelby.
Nathaniel Weinshell. Oh, yeah, my bad.
Today, we will be talking about the college football playoff and how much it affects the game of college football, our predictions, our outlooks on the game,
Analysts.
and we will have two guest speakers today. We have our guest speaker, Matthias. Please welcome Matthias. And then we have our guest speaker, Preston. Please welcome Preston.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get started with some talking. So, Matthias, how much do you really know about college football? Like, are you like in the needle?
No. Not at all.
Okay. Okay, Preston, how about you? Are you like this huge fanatic fan?
Oh, definitely. Diehard.
Can we get some like major insight from you guys today?
Sure, yeah. I'd love to give my insight. Personally.
Unbiased college football fan.
Unbiased.
Do you have a favorite sports team?
Okay, so sports team, it would be the University of Missouri, because I love the Tigers and how they're playing in the SEC right now. It would be Virginia Tech and how they're coming back from their near extinction of a college football program. And then the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I just love how they're playing, even though they lost to Northern Illinois.
So tell me a little bit about this Missouri football team this year. What were you happy about this year with the team?
What was I was extremely happy about how they were playing this year and how good they were playing and how the coach of Eli Drinkowitz is taking their program from what would be like a comedic joke of a program to now they're not compatible, but they're able to play at a higher level than what is expected of them.
So Missouri took a couple tough losses this year.
Oh yeah, they did.
We look at the Texas A&M game; they lost by 31 points. They lost by 34 to Alabama. But then they also had games where, they competed at a high level. They took down a Vanderbilt team that competed with Texas and Alabama.
Yeah.
So moving forward, do you think your Missouri team will be able to make the playoff next year?
I'd say it's really up to kind of like strength of schedule and if the college football committee, I'm somewhat with my words, but if the committee deems Missouri is a good team to make it into the playoffs.
I would now think. Would you rather put a 9-3 Alabama team over 11-2 SMU team?
Oh, no. I'd go for what SMU has. It's their schedule. Their schedule has proven that they can play at a high level, but since they're a new program that kind of has gotten off the ground and has started competing at high level, I'd say that SMU is not a really good team to be put into the playoff conversation.
So you would rather have an Alabama?
Yeah, so I'd have like a season
Or a 3-loss SEC team over a 2-loss ACC team.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Alabama being in over SMU. So SMU would have made it if they didn't play in the ACC championship game, I think we can say. And then they lost to Clemson. So why do you think they should get bumped out, even though, that game is almost like high risk and like little reward, to be honest with you. Because Indiana, they didn't have to play in a conference championship game, and they're in the playoff.
And they didn't look good against Ohio State.
And they didn't look good against Ohio State. So, coming from that perspective, what do you have to say about, maybe conference championship games?
Conference championship games, I'd kind of deem like, okay, if you're new, like SMU is new, they've just transferred out of conference into the ACC, and Clemson's like a seasoned vet, they can get into it, but have failed to kind of like produce that championship winning mentality. So I feel like in the case if it were just like SMU versus Clemson, I feel like SMU would definitely win, but since Clemson is like a seasoned pro, they know how to win, they just haven't produced it as well. So it would be like, if they could produce their winning championship, I feel like SMU could definitely win the ACC championship.
I'd like to shift topics here and start talking about our games that we got coming up this weekend. And I'd like to start with the game tonight with Indiana against Notre Dame. I want to ask Nathaniel down there on the left what he's thinking about.
I think Notre Dame's gonna win.
Alright.
Flat out, I think they're looking pretty good right now. They have the momentum going. In Indiana, they had a bye last week, so they're not. 2 weeks ago. So yep, they both did. But I just think Notre Dame got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sean.
And then I think Notre Dame versus Illinois would be a nice. I hope it snows. Would be an interesting game.
No,
No.
it was in
Indiana. But I think it would be an interesting game, both being in state, but they don't play each other at all because Notre Dame's not in the conference. And I think that Indiana team, I don't think they should be in the playoff at all. I don't think they belong in the playoff. They lost to Ohio State by 30 points, and Ohio State is now the 8th seed. So, I don't know what to say, but I just think Notre Dame would be by more than 3 scores.
Well. I don't know about out of the playoff. They did go 11-1.
Maybe 11 seed.
They had the number 6 defense in the country and the number 2 offense in the
Against
country.
who,
They
though?
were 8-1 in the Power 4, and they
Against
also had, well, you look at the strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is 67, but Notre Dame's is 60. What makes Notre Dame so much better than that?
Well, they played Army and
Indiana.
Navy. They played Army and Navy, and they basically did the same thing.
Army and
Indiana's-
Navy are 2 group of 5 teams.
Yeah, but
So-
they look good. Both were ranked at one point compared to any of the Indiana teams they've played. Northwestern, and all of the really bottom Big Ten teams.
Yeah, they didn't really play too much competition this year. They had FSU on their schedule, so
I tell you, Notre Dame did take down Texas A&M to start the year. Although Texas A&M turned
They
out
don't
to
go
be
anymore either.
8-5. Was that the
yeah, right at the end they lost a bunch.
But they also beat a Louisville team who took down the ACC champion. So
And the Michigan team.
and a Georgia Tech team.
Yeah, but, like, let's
pretty competitive.
let's not forget about that Ohio State Michigan game. You can say that the Indiana losing to Ohio State was bad, but then Ohio State goes and drops a deuce against Michigan. So
That's a good transition point. We should talk about that game next.
Or Ohio
all right.
State, just in general.
All right, what do you got, Nathaniel?
Ohio State versus
Tennessee.
Tennessee. I think Ohio State could have beat a Michigan team, but I get every time that Ohio State and Michigan play, it's like a rivalry. So they always gear up that week. So
What about you?
I think a rivalry game, you throw the records away, and you got Michigan and Ohio State, and that's how it is. Especially that game. Every year it's not a close game, but you can feel it's a different type of game. Always played. It's like an old-fashioned Big Ten type of game feel. And I think Ohio State, it's a bad loss, but looking forward, they're not. They're college football. They're a title contender at the end of the day. And they've played good Big Ten teams, and they've played a lot of good teams, and they haven't looked bad. It's just they haven't been good under good tight moments in close games, and that's just where it hurts. They could be Oregon in the beginning of the season if their quarterback slid 1 second earlier. It's all about that. So
Yeah, I think it's just I think for me, it's this Ohio State team has proven multiple times that in competitive scenarios, they just haven't done anything with it. Especially with Oregon and against Michigan, both big games for them that they needed to win, both they didn't. So I don't see them executing against Tennessee, especially with the 43% attendance.
So Tennessee's invading the stadium at Ohio State is what we've been hearing, and they have 43% of the people in Ohio are only going to the game, and out of state wise, there's around 40% of Tennessee fans going because at the same time Ohio State fans don't want to watch what they just saw against Michigan happen, and if they lose this game, Ryan Day is probably going to get fired.
I'll be honest with you. I think I got Ohio State beating Tennessee and then taking down Oregon.
Wow.
I think Ohio State went into Oregon, lost by 1 point, which was very unfortunate. Will Howard made that crucial, critical mistake. But, that game should have been theirs. That should have been their win. They took down Penn State. They took down Indiana. They took down a decent Iowa team. That loss against Michigan, I don't care what you say about a rivalry. That is a terrible loss. But that doesn't excuse the fact that they have the number 1 defense in the country. They are a top 20 offense. And they have the top 30 strength of schedule. And you look at Oregon, and they're not in the top. They're not in the top 30. And I think they can take down Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee is that big of a threat. They beat Alabama, but
Who else?
Alabama also lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, 2 6-6 teams. and Tennessee lost to Arkansas, and Arkansas was the team that lost the worst team in the Big 12. So I think Tennessee's very up and down. I think their quarterback, Mr. Nico, the big guy up there, I think he's very, very streaky, not always making the correct decision. So I got Ohio State taking down Tennessee and then taking down Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I kind of say it would be Tennessee beats Ohio State because Ohio State, losing to Michigan, that kind of dampens the mood a little bit. And then questionable coaching decisions made by Ohio State and Tennessee has been playing extremely good this year, so I'd say this game is kind of going to be like a scale. So it could be up in first quarter for Ohio State, but then in the second quarter they kind of
down.
is down. Or it could be up for Tennessee versus.
To me, I think. I just like to say Ohio State. They haven't looked good, but they've competed. They've really competed in these games, and they've beaten a good Penn State team at Penn State. They've beaten a good Indiana team by like 30 points at home at noon, which plays a big factor, I think. And then here they are. They just played Oregon really tightly in the regular season. Supposed to play them, and then they had a terrible loss to Michigan. So if they play the way they played against Michigan, I think they're going to lose by a lot. But I still see Ohio State winning by a touchdown or two.
I want to get Matthias involved in the conversation here. Matthias, after listening to all these points, what is your insight on this? What do you have to say?
On who I think is gonna win.
Yeah.
Let's get your prediction for the Tennessee Ohio State
I
game.
think Ohio State is gonna win after hearing all these.
So, what is your score prediction? High or low scoring in around point difference?
That's all right. A prediction is all we needed. Nathaniel,
Yep.
I would like you to open us up with the SMU Penn State game and kind of talk about that for us.
I think Penn State, they should blow them out. They should. They're probably not going to, but they should blow them out. It shouldn't be a close game. They should smoke SMU. SMU does. They did just lose to Clemson, so that's a problem, but it was only by a field goal. But I do think that Penn State will win.
As a Penn State fan, I don't know if you can tell I'm wearing pants and shirt. I'm going to the game, and I think I think we'll win, but it's not gonna be a big win like people expect. We're a decent team. We're not really. I wouldn't say we're a great team, but put it this way: if we're rolling, we beat SMU, we beat Boise State, we have a chance not of winning, but we have a chance of making it. I feel like, and we're not a terrible team, but I feel like if we put our offense and defense together for 60 minutes, we would win. We'd beat Georgia, maybe rematch Oregon, have a chance of winning a title. But yeah,
I will say I think Penn State will take care of SMU. I think the weather will be a factor for SMU. They're a school based out in Texas, so
yeah.
they're playing ACC, schedule. So they're playing teams like Syracuse.
Virginia.
Pretty
Yeah, I
sure
was about to say,
Syracuse
like,
plays
holy-
in an indoor stadium.
Yeah,
Correct?
that's the only team.
So I think SMU will struggle with the weather a bit. I think that will be a factor. Penn State almost took down Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. I think Penn State, they only lost by a touchdown to Ohio State. I think they look pretty good. I think they'll beat SMU. And then I have a hard time rooting against Ashton Ginty for Boise State. I really want to see that, that turnout for Ashton. I want him to get what he's worked for. I think he got snubbed at the Heisman personally. But yeah.
Yeah, but for SMU, the notable wins is TCU, Louisville, and Duke. So you want to talk about the differences here. Penn State's big win. They've been competitive in almost any game, really, if you think about it. Even against an Oregon team, it was a close game. Actually, there's what's their defense ranked? It's
pretty high.
I want to say they're they're our 8th ranked defense right now, which is way higher than SMU. SMU is 28. So I don't think it's gonna be as close as people are saying, especially if Penn State can shut down SMU's offense in any way, like Clemson did in that was it ACC championship, right? If they can shut them down, it's gonna be game over.
They don't even let him come back.
I think I like this SMU team. I like what's his name, Jennings. I like what Jennings does. They have a great rush defense, but I think if Penn State is able to get the ball to Tyler Warren, get it to their playmakers, they'll take care of this game pretty easily.
And I would also like to say Penn State also has been a second half team, unlike Clemson, where they blew a 17 or 2 touchdown lead at one point. They've had never been a really first half team. They always look like a second half team to me. They've played like they were losing to USC by 2 touchdowns at one point, losing to Wisconsin by 2 touchdowns at halftime, losing to Oregon, and losing to Ohio State at halftime. And they came back in half those games away, and both the games they came back were away, so they could play it at a following. But I think the home field advantage is too much for SMU again.
So, as we mentioned Clemson in the ACC talks, do we think they have any chance of taking down Texas in a possible upset?
No, there's no way. I think Texas got this in the bag. There's no way they sell.
Why don't you elaborate on that, Nathaniel?
Well, Clemson barely got in by beating SMU, which was a good game.
Mm.
They won by a field goal. That's still pretty good. But I just think Texas should win. Texas is better. They've played better teams, but they did lose. So that could be a problem. But
I will say, Texas, their only notable win is Texas A&M,
that is true.
Who's not even ranked anymore.
who is not ranked and is 8-4. I believe.
And I would like to say I think Texas will win that game, but on game-winning field goal or a really close overtime or a close one-score game at the end of it, just because Clemson hasn't looked the best either. But when they like how they played first half against SMU, they can really be not a team people don't expect. And I could see them beating Georgia, who only played Texas, who only beat Georgia twice. Who only played Georgia twice, and the first time they lost by 2 touchdowns, and the second time they lost by an overtime. And I just think Texas didn't look that great, other than playing really nobody else. I think they're a lot worse than people think, but I still think they'll handle business and win, but tight.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Clemson, they got experience with Dabo Sweeney under head coach. They've been in this scenario
Before.
plenty of times. But I just don't think they have. I don't think Cade Klubnik will be able to handle Texas's pass defense. They got the number 1 pass defense in the nation. They got the number 2 overall defensive scoring. I just don't. I think the game will be closer than expected, but I don't see Clemson being able to take the upset against Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Texas team's just way too strong right now, especially against, I don't know, Clemson's notable wins haven't been very.
I mean, just SMU.
Yeah, it was just SMU in the ACC playoff most recently, and then they lost to South Carolina, which people were arguing might have been a better team to make the college football playoff than others.
I would like to speak. I think they should have got in,
Yeah.
or at least been over Alabama, who has beat them head to head. But how South Carolina has been playing, they beat Clemson in a rivalry game. They've played a lot of teams very hard. Like
They beat Bama.
They
beat both teams that were. Did they lose?
They lost to Bama by they went for an onside kick, got it, almost beat them on a touchdown pass, didn't count. But they're not a bad. I think South Carolina should have got in. It looked like they could play playoff football. I don't remember who they beat, but they beat a decent team, and I think
Clemson.
they beat Clemson and someone else, I think. And they play in the SEC, and they won. I think they've only lost 2 games in the SEC or 3.
9-3.
They're 9-3. They've beat good teams. I mean, they've beat. I think one of their biggest ones was beating Texas A&M by
Missouri.
24 points and beating Missouri by a decent amount. And they played teams hard. And I think that's what you look at a team like that, or you look at a team that is college football worthy. They haven't been on and off. They've played hard throughout the whole year, and I think they should have made the playoffs. But that doesn't matter because the playoffs are already made, and that's just how it works.
I do agree with the South Carolina love. I like Lenore Sellers. I think they are an exciting team to watch. At the same time, though, I think the committee actually did surprisingly well, considering some of the bonehead decisions they've made, considering FSU last year. I think SMU. I do think even though I don't believe they'll be able to take down Penn State, I do believe though that they earned the right to be in the
For sure.
college
Absolutely.
football.
Especially after that second half.
And
Yeah.
compared to Alabama's resume, I just don't think Alabama earned that. I don't think South Carolina earned that
2
either.
losses
I
to
think
unranked teams.
Alabama
Yeah.
took a loss to LSU earlier in the season. They got crushed by Ole Miss at home. That Bama game was, a close game. I was watching it live. I really wish Bama would have lost that, but I don't think either of those three lost teams deserve it. I don't think Clemson necessarily deserves to be in there, but
they got him.
But they winning that conference tournament, just proved them to be there. But yeah, I'd like to move topics. The one team I think we haven't really mentioned is Arizona State.
Or let's talk about the conference champions.
We've
Let's talk about the conference champions now.
Yeah, that would be.
All right, we'll move into Oregon and what we think they'll be able to do, and we'll just go down the list with the top 4 seeds.
Sorry.
I'd actually like to ask Preston.
Yeah,
his
sure.
take on Oregon.
Oregon football, right now, they're soaring high. Their coach, Dan Lanning, he's doing absolutely wonders with that program. From what it was like literally 5 years ago to where they couldn't really produce anything solid to now championships. Like the way they're recruiting, phenomenal. The way they're coaching, phenomenal. Everything about that program is phenomenal and is just looking on the upside. So I got to give my hat to Oregon football. Those guys are just fabulous.
I like that take.
I also think beating Penn State was very big for them. They also beat Ohio State, which is good. They've pretty much smoked most teams. So I think they're doing good. Like, they all think that they're going to win, which is good. You want your players to think that you're going to win. Winning every game is also very good. So I think they're looking pretty good right now. And if they have a good week of practice, they'll come out and win.
Well, they got 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks.
But
Good take.
I think what is it called? I think Oregon really looked good. I mean, they played well against Penn State. They showed that they could play defense and offense, which is really important. You can play both well. And I think they're a good team. They came out of scenarios where they could have lost, especially that Wisconsin game. They could have lost, but Oregon's the only team who came out. They came out at Wisconsin. They didn't play a great game, but you got to find ways to win to go undefeated, and they did, and that makes them the only undefeated team. And they have 4 ranked wins, including, and what is it? 3? No, all is it 3? 3 of them? 3 of them are in the college football playoff, and they have 3 wins in the football playoff. I think they could make 4 and win the title, and I think they would win the title. That would be my pick, but I think Oregon's a very solid team, and they could win the championship if they keep playing how they're playing.
T.S., I'd like to ask you what you think about the Oregon Ducks and how their season has kind of been like. What's your take on Oregon and the ranks of this season compared to their other seasons?
I don't know anything about their past seasons or this season.
Okay.
This season they're
Matthias,
undefeated.
I feel like we need to get Matthias involved a little bit. I see him over here watching videos.
Hey, free to play games.
Matthias, I'll ask you about. We'll ask you about the Heisman right now, okay? We'll take a break from talking about the playoff teams. We'll ask you about the Heisman. We'll get back to the playoff teams. What do you think about Travis Hunter winning the Heisman over Ashton Genty?
Well, here's the thing, right? I only know a little about Travis Hunter because of his girlfriend or his fiance.
Alright. What do you think about his girlfriend?
Yeah,
Like,
spill the tea here, Matthias.
I'm thinking he's over there. He's parking outside the party. He's waiting for her to come out. And then everyone's telling him, your girl doesn't and she's saying he's not even his type. So, like, what's keeping her? It's the money, probably. And then he's going to get bigger and bigger. She's going to leave him. And his mental is going to mess him up. And he's not going to be able to do
Do you think his girlfriend's going to be the result of the downfall of his career?
Yeah, I think it is, actually.
Putting that much trust in women.
That's a pretty big take right there.
Yeah, and then what's it called? And then Ashton Genty, whatever. Yeah, I watched some dude play college football, trying what's it called? The game. You know the game. Yeah, and he tried to become better than Ashton Genty in like 24 hours or something.
And you can't even do that.
Did he do it?
Yeah, he did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Very impressive.
I think now we should go and talk about Boise State.
No,
I'd like to move down and talk about Georgia, actually.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned Georgia yet. I'd like to just list off some stats for you guys. Believe it or not, they are not top 20 in either defensive scoring or offensive scoring. They're 23 defensively, 29 offensively. Some of their notable wins are pretty good. They've taken out Clemson. I'm pretty sure they blanked them, right? 34-0? Or
Yeah,
34-3.
31,
34,
not 3.
it was like 31-3. They crushed Clemson beginning of the season. They beat Texas twice. And then they also took down Tennessee. And they also have the number 1 strength of schedule in the country. So
Yeah, I think they're super quiet this year. I mean, not many people are talking about them being favorites through this whole thing, which is kind of surprising. I mean, just especially with how recently they've just literally beaten any team they've faced, other than who did they lose to? Oh yeah, Ole Miss. That was their big loss.
Alabama.
Oh, and Bama. But recently they've just looked really, really good. And Kirby Smart, I think, gets it done. I mean, you want to talk about college playoff experience? He's
Two
probably,
in the last, 5, yeah.
now that Nick Saban's gone, that's probably the best college experience you're going to get out of a head coach. So I think Georgia always finds a way to go far. I don't think it's going to change this year. Even with, I don't know, maybe Notre Dame plays them super close and wins, but that's like a super upset. Yeah, but I don't, especially with the 2 weeks break, they're going to get their team healthy and back as soon as possible. I mean, yeah, they're going to be a healthy Georgia team against maybe a hurt Notre Dame team, depending on how they play in Indiana. So yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, Georgia's going to go pretty far this year.
I think Georgia, they've been one of the top teams, and I think playing in the SEC, especially away, I mean, every road game in the SEC is a hard game to win. And we learned that from all the SEC coaches. It's probably the hardest to play. Not saying the Big Ten doesn't have crowds, but SEC football is a different type of football than Big Ten football. And I think having 4 ranked wins and having the hardest schedule deserves a spot being 1 or 2, and that's where they are. And I think both their losses were away, and now they're only playing games that are neutral sided, and they've played a decent amount of neutral sided games already, and I think they're a title contender team. And the issue is, I feel like with Georgia's, they don't got a quarterback anymore. He's hurt, and we don't know where he'll go from there. And the backup looks good. They came back. He won the game for them against Clemson in the SEC championship. But you got a hurt quarterback, and that doesn't affect just the team, but it affects not just like quarterback situation, but the whole team in general and how it's gonna be different.
I would like to mention with that little quarterback situation, back in 2017, Georgia's starting quarterback got hurt. Jake Fromm came in, they won the national championship. 2021, Stetson Bennett comes in for a hurt, injured quarterback, and they win the national title. So I think the quarterback play for Georgia has always been, I wouldn't say amazing, but it's always been
Enough to win.
Enough to win. That's a good way to put it. They've always had, their quarterbacks have always had enough in the tank to get the job done. Has not always been pretty. That Georgia Tech game was just a disaster for Georgia, to be honest with you. I really can't believe they won that game. It was a great effort from Georgia. But yeah, I don't know if I'd be too worried about the quarterback play with Georgia. I'd like to move on and talk about Boise State and how we feel about them even competing. Because I don't think we completely know if Boise State will be able to compete. We did see them take down Oregon to the wire, right? They only lost by 3 points.
To a game field goal.
A young Oregon team, though, is
But
also,
however, that Oregon team also struggled with an FCS team in
What is it,
Idaho.
Idaho? Yeah.
So I think Oregon has significantly improved since the beginning of the season. We got
I also
Leonard
think
coming on.
Boise State. I think it's a one dude offense. One dude offense.
And that
I
means
don't.
Ashton Jennings.
It's a one dude offense. Yeah, I think it was a one dude offense all season long. I think if you can stop the running back, you can win the game.
yeah.
Hey, can you stop with that one?
If you can stop the run, you will win the game. Yep.
Well, I'd like to mention how every team against Boise State has put 8 guys in the box, and yet
Not done anything.
Ashton Genty continues to
8
run
guys
all
in the
over
box
them.
runs over.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any team will be able to stop him. The Oregon couldn't stop him. He ran for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think Ashton Genty is going to be a factor no matter what. I just don't know if it'll be enough to take down
A Penn
State
State team
team.
or a
SMU team who just beat Penn State.
Boise
also-
State's
Let's-
only Power 4 game was
Was
Oregon.
And they played them hard, but that's the beginning of the season though.
Mm-hmm.
That
We
was
see
that's
from
when Georgia.
Clemson losing by 30 points by
Also,
And you
not
know-
just, I was about to, yeah,
Go ahead.
not just that. SMU has a ranked 4 rush defense, and also Penn State has a 9th ranked rush defense. So either team that comes out of that game underneath them
Play
is
hard.
gonna play them really
What's
close.
that? What's the pass offense for
For
Penn State?
pass offense.
not too high, but I know their safeties really well. He's one of the top 50 ranked players that I just saw come out.
So Boise State's pass defense is ranked 109th in the country. So if Penn State,
Julian Fleming, Tyler
if Penn
Warren,
State is able to get Tyler Warren involved,
or
I
number 6,
see
yeah.
Boise State having a very hard time
Yeah, if you just pass the ball.
And I think
defensively.
also Penn State's defense, they have Abdul Carter, Big Ten, the best defensive player, or I think national. I don't know if he won the national one, but he's probably going to be a first round draft pick.
You could just name player
Tony
after player,
Rojas,
and I
yeah.
will not think that any of them could stop Ashton Genty.
No, but I think having
I will vouch for Genty.
Yeah, I'm watching
Down-
these clips right now.
Down to the wire, I'm telling you, Ashton Genty is
I just
going
think
to
if you put 8
destroy
guys in the
anyone who
box,
comes his
especially for
way.
Penn State, you put 8 guys in the box. I don't see him going over
I
150 yards.
I
But
see them.
I see him
doing
going
it.
over-
I just think.
I just think they can't pass enough. And when you
Yeah.
have a team that they can only play one dimensional, you can't win games.
They can only run the ball. There's no pass on that offense at all. I don't think they have a single passing play. I think it is all.
Hey, do you
Right.
think Travis Hunter should have won?
I
do not.
Jenny,
I
I
do
think
not.
Jenny
I
should
think
have won.
Genty won.
But I mean, who has he played? That's the question. I think that's how he didn't win it.
Well, I think.
He hasn't.
I think that game against Oregon
Yeah, that should have
just
solidified it.
staples the
I
fact
don't
that he
know
can
how-
do it. Yeah, he can do it
Who
against
has
any team.
Colorado played? That
No,
You got a point. No one.
yeah, like I don't think he should have won. I think the only reason he won is because he
Two
plays 2 ways.
And he's like the next generational talent. And I think at the
They
same
had to give it to him.
he's a really good player, and I think what he does is insane. But it's not a factor. Like Jenny is the factor of the game. He moves a guy in the box, which changes defensive formations, which can open up.
Well, I'd like to slow your roll. I wouldn't say Travis Hunter's not a factor, but Travis Hunter's. I will say Genty is more impactful, even though
Yes.
even
Because
though
Genty
even though
did-
Hunter plays 2 ways, I do think Genty's more impactful.
Yeah, I mean he did get his team to the 3rd seed.
Yep,
and
that
with
is
Colorado.
Colorado.
So that's why.
But back to the Boise State thing. I mean, ranked 77th pass offense. If they stop Genty on maybe 2 drives, you're looking at a almost shutout game. Because
They can't do anything.
plus,
with that.
yeah, and especially with Tyler Warren on offense for them. I mean, he was looking dominant in that Oregon game. He single-handedly got them into the second half of that game.
And I think something to note, especially when Penn State plays SMU or Boise State, is they have so many different formations. There's so many different ways to come out. As a Penn State fan, I've seen them come out in 30 different ways. Tyler Warren, our tight end, he's played tight end, quarterback, center, running back, and receiver. He can play a lot. He can play so many different positions. They used to have 2 quarterbacks who would play in the game, but he transferred. But still, they played 2 quarterbacks in some formations. They played Warren at center, Warren at anywhere else, and I think that really changes the defense up. And if they find one matchup that they like, I feel like the game might change ways and it'll get out of hand. But
What's next? Broncos tight end Sean Payton. I'd like to wrap this up, so we're gonna talk about our last team, Arizona State. We'll give them their time as well, just like we gave every other team. And I'd like to ask Preston to lead us off. Preston, what do you have on Arizona State? What do you think about them?
Arizona State, it's a good program. Like, they're starting to grow. I feel like that's just personally me saying. But, yeah, the great players have great coaching. I feel like the coaching, though, kind of just needs to work on just themselves and just trying to better themselves so that they can be more better opponents with each coming year.
You don't think Kenny Dillingham's done a decent job this year?
Yeah, I don't think he's done a decent job, but I think if given more time, we could see that Arizona State.
I will say Kenny Dillingham is like coach of the year candidate right now. He
Yeah.
took a 3-9 Arizona State team from last year,
To
predicted to be the worst team in the
Yeah.
Big 12, to winning the Big 12 and in the playoff.
And now third, fourth seed in the playoffs.
And beating a BYU team, an Iowa State team,
Kansas State.
a Kansas State team. Their notable losses was like Texas Tech and Cincinnati, who also played other teams pretty
Texas
close.
Tech was
Yeah.
a good
Early on too, not
Very
not.
early
on.
They looked really hot, and that's
Well, Texas Tech also beat Iowa State. You know that Texas Tech team was a good team. Cincinnati, they couldn't really get things going. You know, you look at that game. You also didn't have Arizona State didn't have their quarterback. So I would like to point that out.
I think we should go to Cam Scadaboo.
Yeah, I
Now-
would like to talk about Cam Scadaboo.
I think he's basically an Ashton Jennings, but not. I think he's an impactful player. He's been running the same way he has, but he's not Ashton Jennings at the end of the day.
I'll be honest. I've been really high on Ashton Genty this whole time, but I think Cam Scadaboo is the hottest player in college football right now.
Hot. I mean, he hasn't been putting the best numbers up. He hasn't been great in the beginning of the season, but in the last game, he went crazy, especially in the championship game.
I mean, 200 all-purpose yards against an Iowa State team that's top 20 defensively.
I think it's very good. They're very hot. I wouldn't say a great team, but the way he's been running is. When I was listening to that game, I heard Scadaboo on the TV a bunch of times getting yelled, and once he breaks decent amount of runs, that's a factor in the game, and he can put a close Big 12 championship game to a blowout Big 12 championship game.
I like that Matthias is watching highlights on. He's watched highlights on Genty, Hunter, and Scadaboo at this point now.
Yeah.
Getting familiar with the game.
if Texas wins, Arizona State will be playing Texas. That will be a very good.
I think that'll be a very good game, especially a Texas team who still really haven't played anybody,
Yeah.
even if they beat Clemson. And Arizona State, to be fair, they haven't played anyone really good or college football contender, but they'll be hot.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be rested, well prepared, and ready to play.
Jad, Sammy, not here.
No.
No.
What's that kid look like?
We
Do
have
we have
a
a Jad,
little
Sammy?
guest.
Do we
Jad-
have
you're
a
trying to
Jad?
go on the podcast.
Miss Rogers.
Do we have a Jad, Sammy?
Yeah.
What's he look like?
It's that curly hair kid.
He has glasses. Then.
He's
He's
glasses.
not here.
That's
I
what
also
I
said.
know who you mean. I know who you mean.
I also think so
Sorry
Arizona,
for that interruption.
Arizona State, I mean, they were missing their receiver. Okay. They were missing their wide receiver last week. Their leading wide receiver last week, who was
All first
Yeah,
team
yeah.
Big 12.
yeah, all first team Big 12. He had over, I want to say, like 120 yards per game or something crazy.
Yeah.
Their second player on their team had 20. I remember
He
seeing that
was
statistic.
he was a big factor
Yeah.
for Arizona State, but I will say they proved that they don't necessarily need him. I mean,
I'm saying he's coming back for the
is he coming back?
yeah, he'll be back for that game.
Yeah, so I think Arizona State. I think their offense is going to be very hard to stop, even though Texas has a very good defense. I think.
And I think now we can talk about the potential matchup Arizona State Texas and who everyone's picks would be because I don't think Clemson would win that game, but still I think that would be a very interesting matchup, especially seeing two teams like for one Arizona State's hot, but they haven't played all around football. I think and a Texas team hasn't played anybody, but are an SEC team and did go 11-2. So yeah.
This one doesn't seem as good.
Cam Scadaboo.
I would agree. I think Genty's definitely better than Scadaboo. I think
He's
Scadaboo though
smart.
right now
Reminds me of him.
It's
is
more hot.
very more. He's more.
You should announce that to the podcast. You talk about your opinions now that you've seen the clips. Which
I've been watching both of these clips with Ashton Genty and Cam Scadaboo. They both got over 200 yards in whatever game they did, right? But when I'm watching this Cam Scadaboo kid, I'm watching him run, and I don't feel the same as when I watched Genty. I mean, I was watching this guy. He jumped over this guy to get a touchdown, right? Genty did.
It's because he's not blind.
But yeah, and then he just makes it look so easy. And then Cam Scadaboo, even though he does sort of the same thing, he looks like he's struggling while trying to do it.
yeah,
Like it's not the
agreed.
same. They don't have
I
the-
agree.
They don't
I
have the
see
same
that, I see that.
athletic ability.
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a great.
I think
take.
Scadaboo is a different type of breed though.
I think
Yes.
Scadaboo is still
I
an
think he's an
insane running back. I
An
just
animal.
think there's a better running back this year, and that's Ashton Jetty.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
we got to start wrapping this up. Matthias, who you got winning the college football playoff?
I don't know who's playing.
Just say Georgia. Just say Georgia.
Any team.
Georgia, any of the team that you heard us saying the
Oh,
best.
football playoff.
But
After listening to this whole 30-minute segment,
comment below.
Who has the coolest looking?
Oregon has the
Oregon
coolest
has the
uniforms.
The Oregon Ducks.
Yeah.
Preston, who
They
you
have
got winning the
50
college
uniforms.
football playoff?
So me, it's either going to be a powerful Texas.
No,
team
I want the
because-
Broncos to win now.
Because of the way
Oh,
that they've
SMU?
been playing this year and how dominant
Oh,
they've
no,
been,
Boise State,
or we're
Boise
looking
State.
at like an Oregon Ducks finally winning
Mhm.
that championship. Because hey, both teams have been playing extremely well.
So you think if Texas and Oregon meet, the winner of that game will be the national title?
Yeah, I believe that.
Oregon and Texans.
Yeah. Nathaniel, who you got?
I think Georgia has it. I mean, they've got there before. I think they can do it again this year.
And they have a pretty easy, not
Yeah.
easy path, but
It's pretty easy.
I mean, what it looks like is they would play, let's say, a Notre Dame team. I think a Notre Dame, and then they would play a Penn State team, and then
Or,
they would be in the finals.
Sean, what do you got?
I think Oregon would be up there. They would definitely make it to the finals. I don't know if they would win it. I think they would be in it, and then you would have a Penn State or Georgia team from the bottom who would make it. And I mean, as a Penn State fan, you would like to see your team win, but I know under head coach James Franklin, we're not winning a title. We'll maybe make it past the first 2 rounds, but I don't think we'll beat a Georgia team. But I think Penn State does have a chance of winning, but I'm not gonna reimagine myself in my head. I would like them to win, but I think an Oregon team or possibly an Ohio State. It's definitely in a Big Ten. It's either an Oregon, Ohio State, or Georgia, and I think it would be Oregon. They play complete football. They have a head coach who's I don't like how he's cocky. He's pretty cocky, but he's talked to walk, like, some people talk and they don't do the walking, but he talked and walked, and I think when you can do that and you go, 13-0, I think you should win. You have a good team of winning it. So yeah.
Sam, who you got?
So I actually don't think Oregon's gonna beat Arizona State. I think Arizona State's gonna go all the way to the national championship this year. Hot take. I don't think the
I
Oregon
like
team.
that one.
I think Arizona State is built to beat Oregon, so if they can make it to Oregon, they'll beat Oregon. And but I also think that Georgia, if that's the case, they get Arizona State in the national title. I think it's gonna be
Georgia TCU.
it's gonna be a blowout. I don't see it being very close. And
66.
and I think
I
Georgia
think
will have.
Arizona State could compete with Georgia. I think any team can compete with Georgia. I got Georgia winning it all.
Yeah.
I think any team can compete with Georgia. I'll be honest with you. Georgia has been very hot and cold in the game this year.
Yeah.
However, Georgia finds a way to win.
When they
You
play
know, we
playoff
we look at that Georgia Tech game. I mean,
They
I'm
won.
not like Georgia Tech is not a bad team, right?
They,
But even against not the most amazing competition, they still are able to find a way to win even when they're down a quarterback, all that. I think Kirby Smart will lead to another national title.
You're talking about most win games. I mean, literally Georgia's hit every most win game they've needed. So I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
I'd like to
against them.
do one more thing before we wrap this up. Let's try and make this quick. Give me your biggest upset, if you have any,
of the year.
Bet.
of the playoff. Your big prediction.
Oh,
upset.
in this playoff?
Yeah, I'd like to start with Preston. Preston, what do you got?
Who are the teams in the playoff again? Because I know it's Texas.
So we have,
Here you go.
Oh, there you go.
yeah.
I want to say
It's upset alert or something.
my absolute alert would be like Clemson over Texas. I believe that game, it's up and down. It's going to be like a
You think
good-
Dabo Swinney's vet experience can go up against
He can win games. I mean,
questionable
games.
quarterback play with,
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers?
Yeah.
or
Or Eli Archman. Excuse me. My brain.
all right.
I have SMU. I think they can beat Penn State, honestly. The Penn State's coach cannot.
Yeah, we were
cannot-
talking a lot earlier, Nathaniel. I asked you this very specifically. Who you got, Penn State or SMU? You said, I think Penn State
I
will
think
destroy
Penn
them.
State. I think they will destroy them. But listen.
See an upset.
There could be an upset. There's a chance because Penn State's coach shits the bed. Let's just say that.
Okay, all right.
As a Penn State fan, I've seen multiple years. I've gone to Ohio State or Michigan games past years. We've lost those games, especially the noon games. Big noon kickoff sucks. Hate it. I think it's terrible for college football. And I think a Penn State game playing at noon is vulnerable, but I just see them beating SMU. But I would like to say, I think Notre Dame could possibly beat a Georgia team, or I'm talking second round here. but I think that would be an upset that people may not expect. I think they could beat them, and then we would have an interesting Final Four. But I think that could be a possibility. Or as a first-round game, I think Texas, Clemson. I think Clemson could play them hard, maybe squeak out a win, and then following week lose by a lot to Arizona State.
Yeah.
But still,
I couldn't agree more on that Notre Dame take. I seriously think that game will be way closer than people are thinking. Just because, yes, Georgia gets it done, but I don't see them getting it done without it being a close game.
in Notre
So-
Dame, they haven't played
So you got
too
Notre
much
Dame as your biggest upset?
Easily.
or
Notre
upset
Dame.
watch type of game.
Yeah, that's definitely the
So
upset
I got
watch.
for my upset. Actually, let's go with Matthias.
Matthias?
Matthias, what's your upset alert? This is our upset alert segment, by the way.
I don't have it. I don't know who lost. I don't know.
So the bigger the number means the higher the seed,
Or
or the lower the
worse.
seed.
So the
So if you have a smaller number, that means you're better. You're supposedly better than the other team.
What does that mean?
Alright, just say a name and then say
Listen. I don't really care.
I think it'd be safe to say if
I
you said
just-
Boise State, that would be considered an upset.
yeah, any Boise State game. Just say Boise,
Boise
State.
Boise State. They're my
Hey.
favorite team. I want them to win everything.
and you like the Broncos.
My biggest upset alert will be in the quarterfinal. I think Ohio State beats Oregon.
That I could see they played them hard at Oregon, especially, and
Put them in a neutral site.
slide 1 second earlier in the games.
Put them in a
games
neutral site.
Absolutely.
I think Ohio State.
especially especially in the Rose Bowl, which is a case. I don't know if everyone knows, but the Rose Bowl has been home to the Big Ten winner and the Pac-12 winner for the past a long time, and they're both old Pac-12 team. Ohio State, a classic Big Ten team, so they've met in the Rose Bowl many times, and I think that would be a fair-fought game, just like a rivalry game. And I think that could actually happen too.
All right.
Oh, it's a stadium.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to Tailgate Talks, and we will see you next time.
Yep.